Hello everyone, everything new under the sun. Now if you recognize this, that means you have seen several of my previous videos. This is inside my chicken shed, and today was the day to move my solar setup, which is my primary, my highest quality solar setup with my big MPPT charger and my big marine battery up to my shed, where I'm not using this chicken shed anymore. We had troubles with the chickens. There's a whole back story there. But long story short, we're not using this chicken shed anymore, and so I'm going to move all the good components up to the chicken shed, or not to the chicken shed, but the tractor shed. And that is because the batteries in the tractor shed have been well used up. There were a bunch of old car batteries I had all kind of lined up in parallel, various sizes and such, that I was just using as a battery bank, a beater battery bank, if you will, for solar in there, because I just have lighting, some really simple lighting in the tractor shed, and I don't see me using this solar setup in the chicken shed anytime soon. So I went ahead and started disassembling everything. My plan is to move the MPPT controller, this one here that you can see. This is the EP Solar, I think it's a 20 amp unit, and they have newer units. EP Solar does have newer units out, which are kind of cool with some extra features, but this one has been rock solid. And I'm going to move it. I'm going to put the MPPT solar charge controller into my Airstream, and that's going to be a project in and unto itself, because I want my best solar hardware in the Airstream, and that will be my effectively my solar generator for our house if the power goes out. It just so happens that the power was out on this particular day. It was very stormy. You'll see in a second. But this is my Marine RV deep cycle battery, 110 amp hours in this guy. This is a plain old flooded lead acid battery. It was a little low on water, so I did end up filling it up. You can see the water all around there, because the water does boil out over the year. So once a year, you got to kind of maintain it and add water to it as it charges up. It boils out over time, and so you do got to keep it topped up with distilled water. That'll be another video. So here you're gonna see me trying to haul this in. This is I don't know what it is, 70 pounds or something. It is a heavy battery. And today it was storming. There was no electricity actually in the house today. There was a nor'easter, so it was pretty blustery. But yeah, so the plan is to bring that battery up. I'm going to use that battery in the tractor shed and basically look for core charge refunds on these two other batteries that now you can see in the video. So the front battery is, I think it's the MotoMaster Lawn and Garden battery, and the one behind it is a Honda car battery. So various shapes and sizes, 12 volt, obviously different amp hours. But these batteries are end of life. They're probably 10 years old, and I've drained them down to nothing several times, and I've had lots of bad batteries also drawing them down. You can see in this setup I also have a really cheap $10 charge controller at the very top, and we'll look at that in some upcoming clips. But what I'm doing now is basically getting rid of the rat's nest, cleaning up all the mess of wires that I had there to get ready for the new setup with the new battery. Now I do have a new charge controller on the way. It is going to be a PWM, but the advantage over the existing one is that it has a readout of voltage on it, whereas this one doesn't. So definitely stay tuned for an upcoming video on that one. I haven't received it yet. I did get another MPPT charge controller, but it's a boost up one that you can only use for 24 volt battery banks, or 48 or 36 or whatever. You can't really use them for 12 volt, so that was kind of a waste, but that may be a video upcoming as well. So basically I had a pile of wires here. I have about 60 watts of solar on the top of the shed, going in with basically just a 15 amp wire, the black one you can see swinging there, and then the power going to the batteries. The batteries are linked up together, and there's just a ton of corrosion on the top of them. And then basically a hack to there's another MotoMaster charge controller in the back that red wire is coming from, and that's a really super basic PWM. There's no real helpful lights or anything in that one, so it's even more simple than the black solar charge controller you can see on the wall there. So what I'm doing again is just getting rid of the rat's nest there, and looking at some of the parts that I could reuse. And like I said, I'm going to take these batteries in for a core charge. So this next clip here, you can see the corrosion and the acid buildup that I've had going on. Now what you can do is wash this with, I think it's a combination of baking soda and water, and that kind of dissolves the solution. I guess it's a base, and it gets rid of the acid and kind of washes it away. I was also looking at the fluid level in the battery, and both these batteries were low, which is probably the cause of their failure, although they are very old as well. I actually have another video where I'm going to go ahead and show adding distilled water to top up that and to do the maintenance on these batteries. So that'll be another video. So here's the big marine RV battery, and I'm going to go ahead and plug it into the solar charge controller. I do have the big thick wires on it, and I believe I did get those back into it. It took a little doing, but I was able to get those back into it. They handle quite a large amount of amperage. I think I was saying before I have 60 watts of solar panels on the roof. I also have another, I think, 6 watts of basically car battery maintenance solar panels on the side of the shed. And so I've got a couple different sources. I mean, no huge amperage coming out of the trickle charge car battery solar panels, but they do provide constant flow basically, and they never get covered by snow because they're vertical on the wall. So they actually work pretty well, even though they're very low amperage. I use the lights rarely, so they really keep the battery nice and topped up high. I had some trouble with this cheap solar charge controller because, of course, the screws were cheap, and the holes where they go in are not too big. So getting the big fat white heavy amperage white wires going in there, 0 gauge or whatever they are, in there was a bit of a struggle, as you can see. Eventually, I got it. I think I've got it finished. A little bit of an update. As I probably spoke of before, I got rid of these batteries. I do need to fill this up with some water. The water is low in here. It's still showing over 13 volts though. And I got the load going. I've got actually the lights going through the load connection here. And that's going to allow the PWM to actually turn off the load if the battery gets too low. So that's going to save the battery. I didn't have it doing that before. I was going straight to the battery. So that's nice. And my switch still works. I'm getting about 20 volts of solar right now. It's low. The amperage is probably low. You can see the sun is red there. And so that means the solar is low. That's because it's covered in snow. It's still getting 20 volts. Now if it was an MPPT charger, I'd be probably actually putting a little bit of amperage in there because of the 20 volts. But because it's a PWM, it just pulls it down to 13 volts or whatever the battery is at basically at that point in time. So it would be more efficient, but I'm going to save my MPPT controller for my Airstream. So that's kind of the next project. This is a project just to get this battery up out of the chicken shed, and I'm going to have to get rid of, I'll try and get some core charges for those, try and make some money out of them. These are completely dead. I've used them for a number of years, and so they've lived their life, and they did well, but now it's time to continue on with this deep cycle. And this deep cycle is doing well. The amp hours aren't there as much as it used to be, but it seems to be the more solid battery overall. It's a plain old lead acid, old technology, but it seems to be going strong. I'm sure I have nowhere near the 115 amp hours stated on the battery, but certainly for the little projects I'm doing, it works. And eventually I'll probably move that in to parallel with my other 90 amp hour AGM battery in my camper, just to double up the amp hours, because I don't want to buy a new battery anytime soon. But if I did, I'd probably go for one of these. This is a cheap old lead acid deep cycle, but 150 bucks, and this actually lasts longer than the AGMs apparently. You pay about twice the price for an AGM. I paid about 300 bucks for the AGM in the camper, and it doesn't hold as much amp hour storage as this one. And it's pretty much, I wouldn't say it's dead, but it's getting near end of life. And this one has lasted 6-7 years now, so I'm doing pretty good. This little charge controller I got for 10 bucks off eBay, still working well, does its job. It has no dials, no voltage readings, etc. on it. It's just a plain Jane charge controller, and it is PWM, but it just sits there and does its job day in, day out, so I can't complain about that. Well, thanks for watching, guys. I will have a video upcoming about how to do some maintenance on your batteries, add some distilled water, and some other charge controller unboxing videos. So again, stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video.